So it happened again. Denji and Asa have repeated history and crossed that line, except in contrast to the last time where it was very uncomfortable, filled with lust and a lot of other complex things going on in the background. The circumstances and context that bring about this specific situation are completely different. That's right, your boy called it. You see, the constant bangs that Yoru was emulating with a gun devil to eliminate Chainsaw Man was actually the greatest foreshadow in existence, as the implication that Asa and Denji are finally entering the adult activities arc, and surrounded in their respective Garden of Eden, which ironically has allusions to Dante's seventh circle of hell from Dante's Inferno with the various human tree hybrids. It's the perfect place to do this, right? Jokes aside, this is a very nuanced canon event, as there is much more profound emotional weight being carried into this dynamic, whether that be for the good or for the bad. A lot of these repressed emotions that both Denji and Asa have been burying deep inside are starting to surface. Denji with his futility complex, and Asa with this emotional attachment to Denji, imbued with Yoru's sympathy and lust and despair for the moment. Fujimoto is a master at reversing the narrative. Like, I've never seen an enemies to lovers angle that is not only exceptionally confusing and often bleak, but ripe with so much passion and intensity. And reflecting on the many changes the Chainsaw Man story has taken, it's kind of crazy to imagine things coming full circle at this destination. I mean, a couple chapters ago, Yoru was controlling the Statue of Liberty as if it was her own personal long-range ballistic missile. She was overtaken by her destruction and silencing Asa, forcing her to watch on standby while reveling in the chaos. And now, in an act of desperation, sympathy, and while being consumed by Asa's emotions, she kisses Denji. Now, this is probably part of some much greater scheme, as there's plenty of unanswered questions, mysteries, and theories all going on in the background. For example, I'm still convinced that Fami has been spearheading this operation, since she's been strangely gone from the story since the whole sushi showdown. There's also this massive theory that Yoshida was the person who escaped the aging devil's world, which would also reframe his involvement in Asa and Denji's relationship and the position he's held up until now in the Chainsaw Man story. But I'm getting way ahead of myself, so let's start at the beginning and get into it. The chapter begins from Asa's perspective, as she's frantically wandering through the aging world, denying the fact that she's trapped and that there's no way out. Like, she's in real genuine denial. She tells herself that it's fine and that she can totally figure this out because this happened before when she and Denji fought the Eternity Devil. And so she blatantly lies to herself, believing that she knows how to escape and that this is just a small speed bump in the road, and with her own merit and power, she will overcome this obstacle. So Asa rationalizes that she simply needs to perceive this space and world as her own, just like what she did in the aquarium. So if she can turn this realm into her weapon, she can come out victorious, and maybe even Denji will reunite with that penguin. Unfortunately, it's not that straightforward. As hinted in the previous chapter, devil powers seem to be nullified in this world. Yoru had already attempted to blast Denji with no effect, and now she tries the same thing on herself, which was pretty out of pocket. Poor Asa. But the fact of the matter is that this is far different to their time with the Eternity Devil, which makes sense because aging is a primal devil. So logically, the boundaries of power should be much greater than your average devil. The point is that it's setting the stakes for this hopeless, precarious, and dangerous situation. Their back is against the wall and they can't move forward, despite the fact that Yoru is the War Devil, one of the 4 Apocalypse Devils and the mother of presumably all the Weapon Devils. She's actually bit off more than she can chew. Her capabilities just isn't a match for the Aging Devil. There's no plan, there's no way she can fight back. She just has to accept her fate and that's it. And this is a pretty tough pill for Yoru to swallow, who's insanely hot-headed and takes a lot of pride in her strength. Even when Yoru was fighting the Chainsaw Devil, she never saw the battle as unwinnable. And when you take that aspect into perspective and compare it to Makima, who had to jump a cheetah to take him on, and still saw victory as unachievable, it really showcases just how capable of a force that Yoru truly is. So to witness her resign herself to this destiny is a side I didn't expect to see. Normally it's Asa who's the proud member of Depression Gang, but it seems like Yoru has ascertained that mantle all for herself, having a mental breakdown like she's KSI who can't accept the fact that he made a terrible song. She lets out her frustration out on one of the trees, and lo and behold, that isn't a tree but a whole ass person who turned into a tree, and that irrational fear consumes Asa, sprinting away in a panic. until she returns from where she started, and in classic clumsy Asa fashion, trips over Denji. So apparently, if you stay in the aging world for over 1,000 years, you will gradually transform into a tree. And only once that tree rots away and your mind and body have become one with nature, can you finally return to the real world. So to make a long story short, if you can't find your escape, you're officially cooked. And it's at this point of realization does the reality of this metaphorical tightrope start to hit Yoru. Now, something that I noticed throughout this chapter is that Asa and Yoru are consistently trading places in accordance to their reactions. It's come to the point where they're almost one body and one mind acting independently. But it could also mean that the barrier of their souls, emotions, and everything in between are colliding together, making them indistinguishable from one another. And this isn't just prevalent through the imagery, but also through the dialogue, as once Yoru and Asa come to terms with their reality, they instantly cast the blame on Denji, looking for any outlet to vent their anguish. Asa and Yoru start wailing on Denji, and then they spiral. They blame Chainsaw Man for bringing them into this world. They're trapped and it's all his fault. And even the simple fact that they're consistently finding themselves in life or death battles against devil after devil, it's all because of him. It's at this point that Denji wakes up. Tears start streaming from his eyes, blood dripping from his nose. And instead of getting mad or retaliating, he just apologizes. Denji, as this constant victim of misfortune and unluck, is blaming himself for every bad thing that has happened to others in his life. It showcases just how much pain he's been holding back. I mean, his crash out into the Chainsaw Devil was a direct result of not being able to handle all the suffering. But it goes much deeper, because I think he's still holding on to those countless losses that he experienced from part 1. Not being able to save Aki or Power, having to eliminate Makima while she saw him as nothing. And then once he does rebuild his family with Nayuta and his dogs, he's able to find a new home to call his own. It's all taken away from him because he's Chainsaw Man. Since he's always the focus, since everyone is after Chainsaw Man, he takes on that responsibility and sees himself as a perpetrator when none of this is really his fault, but he's still hurting so much. In this endless sea he's drowning in, always getting affirmed by those negative experiences and witnessing others end up dead or miserable just by proxy of associating with him. Of course, he's gonna see himself as the problem, not the solution. Constantly being driven by his basal urges, Denji's self-worth is totally in the gutter, viewing himself as an empty-headed, degenerate loser who deserves all the suffering. So turning into a tree and living the rest of his life in the aging world is the punishment he thinks he deserves. This is the suffering he believes he should live in. Now, it's at this point, after seeing Denji in this pitiful state, that Yoru realizes that she took this a little too far, and you can see all sorts of emotions stirring up in her head. All these complex feelings well up inside of her, because yeah, she hates Chainsaw Man, but Denji isn't just Chainsaw Man, he's also Denji. So this is a profound moment, because unlike Makima, Yoru can actually separate and recognize Denji for who he is. And the emotions and feelings that Asa holds deep inside for Denji are genuine and real. And that's because they're cut from the same cloth. Asa and Yoru, like Denji, are also those same degenerate idiots who are driven by their urges and emotions. It's all these little things that bring about this kiss, rewriting that previous disaster filled with tension and lust, and showcasing a real connection between the two, as they're related by their desperation and their pain. This was the way that it came across for me. Yoru saw Denji suffering, and she impulsively acted out of her emotion as a way to heal him. I know others have their own ideas and theories behind this, but from my understanding, this is a far more intimate and emotional affair than the last time. So while it did happen again, the payoff is different, with a potential ray of light after traversing this long, dark, and deadly tunnel. And I can't help but wonder, what will happen next? But anyways, that's it for the video, Mad Lads. Let me know in the comments your thoughts and concerns for this chapter, what you expect will happen next moving forward, and everything else in between. And with that, I'll catch you guys in the next video.